The poor we always have with us, I think Jesus said. And we know we can we have them with us. And you often see statistics. So many people are below the poverty line and this, that and the other. Experts. But how do you help the poor? And who helps them? The ones that help the poor are Catholics and Catholic charitable organisations. In Dublin, Merchants Quay, that great bastion for looking after the poor, giving them food and shelter, and giving them trying to cure their addictions, helping them, listening to them. The Capuchins in Dublin as well, doing great work in that area, helping them. And another one that helps the poor is St. Vincent de Paul. Now, regretfully, some of their stores are just called Vincent's, which is an abbreviation for St. Vincent de Paul. I think when you're following and doing the charitable work that St. Vincent de Paul instituted all those years ago, French. Some great saints come from France and from this country too, of course. Actually, far more in many ways, because we planted the seed of the faith in many countries over the centuries. But the poor, the ones that look after them, as I say, is the Catholics. But there's one ingredient necessary. Without God, you can't help the poor. It's only with God that you help the poor. I was in Dublin there just recently, called to get some books in Veritas in Middle Abbey Street and some sacred music. I could only get one. I like sacred music. I have other ones that has the chant, but I like just sacred music. I could only get one. I'd like to have a few. So then, but when I was in Dublin and walked over a Con Street, or a Con Bridge rather, there was two men. It was on the right hand side of the bridge as you come up from O'Connor Street, and there was a man that looked to have injured. He was in a wheelchair, begging. So I put €2 in his box and I asked him, looked him in the eye. You just don't do it just like that. They're human beings. I looked him in the eye and I said, what happened to you? And he said, I think helping somebody else or something like that. And he got paralysed on the left hand side, which is serious. By rights, he should be in a rehabilitation institute so he could be looked after. He deserves it. And to have enough to eat and that kind of thing, and a roof over his head. But in any event, I asked him what happened to him. And then I went a bit long, and here there was another man sitting, nourished. And I didn't have any more €2. I had €1 and I put it in his thing, and I asked him what happened to him. And something else happened to him, but he was healthier than the other man. That was just two little examples. I realise now, many ways, sometimes and I did it one time in France, in a place where there was a French man sitting outside a chemist shop, and they're looking, glaring at him. and I put €1 in his thing and smoked him or something. But his eyes lit up with gratitude. And I thought it stuck in my mind. And now if I see, and then where was I? I don't think it was in a bus or something, just going over a Con Bridge. No, I wasn't. I was walking and I saw on the other side, on O'Connell Bridge, a man lying in asleep with stuff over him in O'Connell Bridge. Now that poor lad is not well. And I believe he should be approached by those people concerned about people's welfare and that want to do something for them. And I wish that they would speak to that chap. I presume he's Irish because it's mostly Irish, I think. And say to him, what's wrong, friend? Tell me, what did you suffer in life? We want to hear what they have to say. And the Christian TV will, Ireland, when it gets established, we will be certainly focusing on them and trying to hear what they have to say. Don't judge, we listen. They have had crosses that they weren't able to deal with. Could have been bad homes, could have been neglect, all sorts we don't know, do we? So we helped them. They could have been abandoned for all we know. I know the secular crowd were giving out about our great nuns and priests and that looked after all these that were abandoned and finding fault. Was the secular crowd doing anything? No. We're supposed to have, I don't know how many, homeless, including children at the present time, in a country where we suffered grievously under the British, with people left on the side of the road to die, evicted from their homes. Yeah. Is this crowd doing the same? I believe they are. People are entitled to accommodation at a very reasonable amount. Not all this social housing. Rented accommodation should not be the prices that they are whatsoever. And people should be able to be sheltered. Now, they could be so psychologically harmed that they don't want to be sheltered. They're not able to mix. Statistics apparently say in the EU, Ireland has the most lonely people, or something like that, at 22%, when the average in the EU is 13%, nearly half, nearly double. 22%, which is dang near a quarter. That tells an awful story. There's a problem, and it should be faced. Poor people haven't got a proper home and a proper roof over their heads with a bit of space. They need space, not cramped up in apartments, which are better than nothing because the apartments were built very good for them, and they look pretty good now by comparison. And we see apartments costing a fortune in all sorts of peculiar places, including one there near Houston Station. You never hear a board or nothing. And such a place, what sort of unhealthy environment is that? So they're not doing things right. I hope when there's a new government, when this crowd are toughed out for what they've done or failed to do, and that the other crowd will make sure that people have a roof over their heads at affordable rents and leases that last for at least 35 years at the cost of living as is, not what these fellas want. Have a look at the EU. Have a look at France and these other countries that don't have the problem we have because everything is controlled. These speculators can't charge what they like. Yes, sorry. So I hope when Sinn Féin gets in, they often have an agenda. But that's one good thing that they should have. Built houses for the people, that have a garden and some space and some quality of life. And those that are sleeping rough and that, help them. That's what Catholics do. That's the Christian way of doing things. Over the years, it was the nuns and the priests that looked after the poor and giving them an education, as they did in this country when we were practically illiterate when we got our freedom. Did the British give us a good Catholic education? You must be joking. They wouldn't allow the Irish to be taught and our history, their old history. Who wants to know what they are up to? And I noticed in EWTN, they're often, which is no harm, praising Sir Thomas More, that was executed by Henry VIII. He said God is more important than anything else. But our great saint, St. Albert Plunkett, the Archbishop of Armagh, Primary of all Ireland, was hung, drawn and quartered. I don't hear mentioned, but he will be mentioned in the Christian TV all that when it gets going, and it'll be a Peter of it. We have a lot of unsung heroes. Father Peyton, the great rosary priest, that brought such great joy to many people in the United States. Boys Town, Father Flanagan, an Irishman, born here, that started Boys Home, film made about it. Marvellous film. Boys Town. And then Father Michael Joseph McGivney, the priest, first generation. His parents were from this country. That's the founder of the great charity, the Knights of Columbus in the United States, that do such great work for those that can't afford to do anything. They do great work, 2 million of them. And our founder is now blessed. I think Michael Givney. I think he's blessed. Yeah. He's honoured as the founder of the Knights of Columbus in the United States. There's just 3. And there's another one that a good friend of mine, Eamon Condon's family, on his mother's side, O'Connor's, is related to the great Cardinal from, and he's from Kinnegad in St. Louis. Cardinal Sean Glennon. His mother was O'Connor's, married to Glennon's, and his memorial is to him in Kinnegad. He was from there, and he was the Archbishop of St. Louis in Missouri, and he started Catholic schools and hospitals, and he's honoured in St. Louis, and he's honoured in Kinnegad. There's 2 statues to him, and a brief biographical deeds and a marvellous painting of him in the presbytery, which I saw. So there's what our ancestors did to do good in the United States and other countries too, of course. Yeah. God bless them. So I thought I'd share that with you. In order to help the poor, you have to have God with you. If you haven't, you don't do anything. You criticise those that do it, as this crowd that we sadly would do. Yeah, they don't give credit where credit is due. I'll be doing the debts now for 2007 after this. Bye now.